So we're joined by Sophie today, who is going to be talking a little bit about regulatory lifecycle management, in particular sort of CMC changes with global regulations. So Sophie, to get started, I think a good question would be, what are the biggest challenges companies and regulatory professionals face in lifecycle management?
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Yes, for the question. It is true that one of the biggest challenges is to manage the regulatory compliance of products that are marketed worldwide, because indeed the regulations are not harmonized, and we have to face these various regulations, these differences in the regulatory requirements when dealing with post-approval CMC changes, for example, because when we want to submit a change, we need to take into considerations all the regulations and all the regulatory requirements from around the world. They are all different. So that results in a situation where we may need to wait for several months before being able to even submit the variations, because some countries will require that this variation is approved in other countries, in reference countries before. And also for the submission itself, some countries will consider that for the same change, it can be just a notification. Other will want to wait for the approval before you can implement it. And then the lead time for the evaluation by the regulatory authorities is also different. Some countries will take like 3 months, others 6 months, or even 12 months. They require a different amount of stability data. And so that means that for the same change, sometimes you are dealing with timelines up to 1 year or 2 years before being able to implement the change itself, and having to manage different approval times and a transition period when some countries have approved your change and some haven't already. So it's a very complex situation, very difficult to manage for the companies.
Thank you very much, Sophie. That sounds really, really complicated and challenging for regulatory professionals. What advice would you give to people that are embarking on variations on with global regulations?
Well, I would say that first they should accept the complexity of the task. Often during my trainings, people are asking, well, how can I do this simply? I just answer, there's no simple way to do it. You have to accept the complexity. So you have to accept that you have to take some time to gather all the requirements and to consider them, all the specificities from the countries, etc. So it's really about accepting that this is complex. It takes time. There's no simple way to do it.
Thank you, Sophie. It sounds like it's a really big project managing global variations and submissions and changes to products. Is that right? Is that what it's like? Is it very strategic and a lot of planning has to go into it?
Indeed it is. Planning variations, implementing variations for worldwide product are indeed should be managed like projects, because they have a defined timeline. There are a lot of people involved in those variations, and it has also a big impact on the production, because it is difficult to anticipate the implementation timeline on the production side. So indeed, it's you need to have a strategic planning and to consider these variations are mini projects within the company.
My next question then, Sophie, would be, is there any big sort of regulatory changes on the horizon with regards to lifecycle management and variations?
Well, yes, actually for Europe, there is a big one coming up. There is this new pharmaceutical strategy initiative that has been started with all the European regulators. It's a learning from the pandemic crisis. They want to be sure that they adapt their regulatory pathways to the actual need for the patients. They want also to adapt to the new technologies, to artificial intelligence, to new ways of developing medicines. And so they will, for, I would say, the coming 2-3 years, they will evaluate if the current legislation is enough to face all those challenges, or if there is a need to revise the European legislation. So the outcome of that is that maybe in 2-3 years, there will be revision of the pharmaceutical legislation, and in also of the guideline on the variations. This we are sure of, because they need to implement fully the ICH Q12 guideline.
Thanks, Sophie. Thank you very much for your time today as well. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you, Alex. Bye.